first glance and to most people, Monster High is nothing but a series of short webisodes animated in Flash to tie in with a doll line for little girls. And for the most part, you are completely right. Monster High was a doll line released by Mattel that took the world by storm. Suddenly, every store was sold out of the dolls. I remember they were so hard to come by here in Mexico that third parties would sell them for even 5 times the original price. It took forever for me to get my very first doll, and from there I became a big fan of the franchise. I agree that at first the series was pretty standard. Since the episodes are around 2 minutes long, there is not really that much they could do. Volume 1 was basically just a collection of little situations, mostly humorous, that helped build up the world, introduce new characters that would eventually turn into dolls or playsets themselves. Volume 2 took things to a new level. Now Mattel knew they had an older demographic, teen and adult girls alike, that were not only invested in the doll line, but also in the story and personalities of these characters. Many things changed in Volume 2. Main antagonist Cleo Denial was now best friends with the main ghouls, and each of the girls was developing her own narrative and problems. Problems that didn't end when the episodes did. They would now carry on to others in the way of longer, interconnected arcs. The main message for the franchise was, accept your freaky flaws. Meaning that no matter what you are, as long as you are yourself, you are perfect. They sold that idea with characters that all had different personalities, styles, and hobbies, but were always reminded of how special they are just by being them. It was a very basic but very important message, and the dolls were so different and sometimes odd-looking that they sold it to the public. But I want to talk about all the other things the show does great, even if they only have 2 minutes to do it. Monster High tackles some very heavy issues that you would honestly not expect from a cartoon aimed mostly at young girls. Laguna and Gil, the water monster couple, had a long-running issue with his parents disliking her for being a saltwater monster, doing the closest Mattel is ever going to do about talking about racism.
I know how to fix this.
You're gonna tell your folks about us?
No, I just won't show them the fear book. They don't need to know.
Either you agree with them or you don't. And if you don't, then you need to do something about it.
I tell them and they send me away. Then I lose you forever.
Don't do it for me. Do it for you. You can't let their prejudice run your life.
Cleo was confident and kinda cruel, but also the product of growing with a very snob father and a sister that seems to do everything better than her.
She has to have everything! It's always been that way since I was little.
Why?
Because she is made of pure evil, that's why!
A family that hated her boyfriend, the first positive thing in her life. But what inspired me to talk about Monster High today was the arc that occurred during 6 episodes, from misinformation to dueling personality. The lesson, though brief, is I think very important. If someone has issues they need to deal with, you are not obligated to stay by their side, especially if the situation is harming you. You don't really see that on media aimed to children. A lot of media sells the idea that you should stay by the side of people who you love and love you no matter what, and try to save them from themselves, be there to help them. But I disagree. Toxic people can harm you. Self-destructive people can't change on someone's desire to change. They need to do it on their own. And you have no obligation to stay in a situation that harms you, no matter if the person is a friend, family member, or romantic interest. Walking away from bad situations doesn't make you a bad person. And somehow Monster High pictured it perfectly. The arc revolves around Frankie Stein, arguably the main character of the series and the very first movies. Frankie is, obviously, the daughter of Frankenstein. Not Frankenstein's monster, since it has been canonically revealed that Victor Frankenstein built Frankie's dad to be his own son, and she refers to him as her grandfather. Frankie is sweet, innocent, and cheerful. She's always trying to help, and it's one of the few characters in the main group to not have a serious romantic relationship. I like to believe that's a result of this arc. So, what happened? Frankie stops local bully Manny Tor from harassing the new kid in school, Jackson Jekyll, and sparks fly between the two. Now, if Jackson's name is not enough for you to realize his big plot twist, then there's not much I can do to help you. Jackson also happens to be a human, or as the show refers to, a normie. Frankie decides to invite Jackson to a party, and he reluctantly agrees. But when the party comes, they never meet. Unknown to Frankie, Jackson can't even enter the party. For the second he listens to music, he suffers a transformation that lives up to his last name, turning into a monster boy called holthyde. Holt is actually a very popular DJ on Monster High, and he goes to the party managing to flirt a bit with Frankie at the same time. Disappointed of Jackson, she is happy to enjoy the attention. However, she is still very much into him, and when she confronts him about standing her up, he apologizes and invites her to the movies. She's more than happy to go, but her friends decide to tag along. Bored out of their minds in the middle of a silent movie, they decide to play some music, and that triggers Jackson, who runs away, once again leaving Frankie alone and quite confused.
Can't believe I got stood up again.
What do you expect from a Norman?
Thought Jackson was different, I guess.
As always, Holt is there, but she is not too excited to see him. This episode, though, gives us a very important piece of information. Neither Jackson nor Holt know that they share the same body.
What is happening to me?
Later on at school, Frankie and Holt meet again, and even though she's not pumped to see him at first, they start talking and bonding, and eventually sparks fly between them as well. He invites her to hang out and she agrees. They go to the beach, they go to the mall, they share their music. It's very cute actually. At this point, it's quite clear that the show has no intention to shame Frankie for liking two guys. After all, she's not really in a relationship with any of them, so there's not really a problem with her just hanging out with them at the same time. Her crushes are mostly encouraged by her friends. But after she witnesses a zombie fight for Gulia, she is afraid that at some point Jackson and Holt will end up having a confrontation over her and hurting each other.
My fist plus your face equals epic win.
Poindexter, your math is wrong!
Yeah!
I gotta figure out what to do.
Pretty much on her own, she decides that she needs to pick one of them. She talks to her friends and slowly realizes that relationships are complicated. Laguna is sad Gil's family moved him to a different school to keep him away from her.
Good for you. Some of us are lucky if we can find one, much less get his parents to accept us or even keep him in the same school. But two boys? Good on you, mate.
I'm very happy for you.
Draculaura has to share Claude with his many litters of siblings.
How many brothers do you have?
Which litter?
Hey, we're a big family. You want to date a wolf, it comes with the territory.
And Cleo is in the middle of trying to prove Juice is having an affair with Operetta.
You make my life complete. Our love is stronger than concrete. Excuse me, Frankie. I have a boyfriend to destroy in a very public way.
All the drama only convinces her that there is no need to make things harder and just pick one boy to date. She goes back and forth trying to pick, and we get to see the things she likes about both boys. She likes how Jackson is cute, smart, and gentle, but she also likes how Holt is full of life, flirty, and fun. In her own words, they are tearing her apart.
Try to catch me.
You two are tearing me apart.
She finally decides to break up with Jackson, but just then it's revealed to all that he and Holt are indeed the same person. This comes as a bitter surprise to Frankie and to Jackson and Holt themselves. She tries her best to help them get along by recording them so they can talk to each other, but the more they do, the more she is tired of it going nowhere, and now she is trapped in the middle. She is so stressed out that she's tearing her stitches out. She is literally falling apart. And that is when she walks out. They have issues they need to solve, and Frankie tried to help but can't handle them anymore, and she doesn't have to. As she very wisely puts it,
You're breaking up with us.
Yes. Well, no. Don't think of it as breaking up. I'm just hitting pause. Until you two get your act together, there's no room for me. Oh.
they have things they need to figure out, a whole dynamic that they need to build, and Frankie cannot be a part of that. I think that is such a healthy thing to show. As much as you may care for others, you have to put your well-being first. No matter how much she liked or how she could manage to love them both, they need to find a way to coexist before they can exist with someone else. We are not always encouraged to do selfish things like care for us first. I know I'm guilty of not caring for myself enough, so it's nice to see it reflected in something that at first sight seems so shallow as a Monster High cartoon. I also like how Frankie reached this conclusion on her own. She didn't ask her friends for help. She didn't read it from a magazine. She did what she needed to do to be better, and can only hope they will be better too. It's not her responsibility to fix them. It's not her place to do so. And she tried anyway because she cares. But this problem is way bigger than she is. And walking away was the best option for her own sanity. Nobody shames her for it. They don't argue against it or get angry at her. They understand and they move on.
Seriously, you guys have to start communicating. I want you to start texting, and when you work it out, I'll still be here.
Oh, it ain't right.
Okay?
Okay,
Yeah, alright.
Now there's only so much you can do for these on 2-minute episodes, but I think they did a great job with it. Not a lot of media for kids would show that you can just live an unhealthy relationship and that it's fine to do so. There is no dramatic consequence for it either. They aren't terribly depressed without her and she doesn't feel guilty for it. What had to happen, happened. If you, like me, wanted to sit and work it out, then you will be disappointed. After this, Jackson and Holt both kinda disappeared from the series. They made an occasional appearance to be jealous at Frankie whenever a new boy, started crushing at school, but only as background characters. Frankie never got an official boyfriend, and it's nice that she and Claudine have remained single by choice. In a franchise that seems to like giving their characters relationships just so they can sell a toy, it is a very refreshing approach. And in fact, Claudine doesn't like dating at all, no matter how hard Draculaura wants her to. For Claudine, dating is not something that interests her, and she's happy to be single and do things at her own pace. If that's not a good message to send to young girls, I don't know what is. That doesn't mean Frankie is not out there. Most movies give her a romantic interest, like Nathan, a guy who is half unicorn, half zombie. And that is very clever to me. A guy who has a double nature but actually knows how to work and live with it. It was a good match, but after the movie he wasn't really mentioned again. As for Jackson and Holt, the movie Ghouls Rule established that, much like in the books, Jackson is the most dominant personality of the two. And he actually gets a new love interest in the shape of a normie goth girl, who only likes him, not Holt. So we can only assume that Holt will remain dormant as long as Jackson can manage it. As much as I would love to see this story come to any kind of more official conclusion, now that Monster High has been cancelled and the doll line discontinued, we can only imagine what could have been. But I am taking many good things with me, and the idea that my own mental health is worth walking away from romance is not a bad thing to take from an animated YouTube series. If you want to watch the entire Monster High web series, it is available on the Monster High YouTube channel. I would recommend staying far, far away from the reboot show and movies. They lost any kind of depth or soul that the original show had. But if you have seen the original web series, what did you like about it? Did you learn anything from them? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.